Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Grand Cruise Astrology. My name is Clayton Cruz, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the solstice and the two power planets that are moving from Capricorn into Aquarius. And I'm also going to talk about a little bit foreshadowing into 2021 and 2022, and one primary aspect that we have during that entire span. So let's get started. Solstice, we have Saturn and Jupiter moving from 29 degrees Capricorn into 0 degrees Aquarius. Okay, so first of all, this is an incredibly rare configuration of things that are happening. Okay, well, first of all, Jupiter and Saturn coming together, that only happens once every 20 years or so. All right, so that's not terribly common, but that's not super crazy coincidental. I mean, it's not, it happens a couple times in most people's lifetimes, three or so, four times maybe, right? So that's not super rare, okay? But the fact that it's moving from 29 degrees Capricorn into 0 degrees Aquarius, that is significant, all right? Because that does represent something closing out, being at 29 degrees Capricorn, a finale, a finishing up of things, and a 0 degrees Aquarius, a rebirthing of something new, okay? A newness, a freshness. 0 degrees is a clean slate. It's new. It's like a newborn, right? So there's that. Now then we also have the fact that it's happening on the solstice. So in the northern hemisphere, it's the darkest time of the year. The sun is just getting ready to gain in light as it goes higher in the sky slowly throughout the year, right? So this is also representative of a newness. We call it, we talk about new moons and full moons. This is a new sun, right? A new sun for the year. And it does have to do with, starting again, starting a solar year, right? Starting at that winter solstice, right? So here we are. This is, in Eastern thought, they would call this yin within yin, meaning that it is just a completely fresh, clean template for a lot of new growth and possibility. It is pure possibility. It's pure potentiality. It's a great time for setting intention and understanding that this time period is going to pack quite a punch as far as the potential for manifestation, just because of the confluence of things that we have going on. So, all right, so we'll start with the solstice with Saturn and Jupiter. I'm just going to talk primarily about that. We also have a square from Mars to Pluto. And I've talked a little bit about that in the last video. You can look at the last video for that information. But I'm going to talk about Saturn and Jupiter together, moving from 29 degrees Capricorn. 29 degrees Capricorn. Capricorn is the sign of the tried and true, the traditional, the one step at a time, working your way to the top. It's very professional. It's very work-oriented. It's very success-oriented. And it has a lot to do with integrity. It has a lot to do with conforming to the norms, the rules, what has worked in the past, right? That is Capricorn. That is what will be left behind, on solstice with Jupiter and Saturn moving into the sign of Aquarius at 0 degrees together. So what is Aquarius? Okay. Aquarius is very different. It does share a lot of this. It does share a lot of similarities with Capricorn, though. I'm going to get into that, but it is different. It is a fixed air sign, and so Aquarius, as opposed to being so caught up in tradition and the past and the tried and true and working your way to the top one step at a time, Aquarius is more about group consciousness, collective, understanding what is good for all, and anything that is put forward and anything that we take to as an individual has to incorporate the greater collective vision, the collective group mentality. It has to fall within that boundary. So that's where we get into the similarity of Capricorn and Aquarius. They're both Saturnian ruled signs. So Saturn by its very nature has to do with limitation, has to do with structure, has to do with crystallization, right? So, in the sign of Aquarius, fixed air sign, it's just moving that Saturnian energy out of the past and hanging on to old traditions and the tried and true, and you know, step by step working your way to the top. And it's a very, Saturn in Capricorn, it's a very corporate structure like energy, right? You could kind of look at it that way. Well, Saturn in the sign of Aquarius is it's different. It's more about crystallization of a vision, right? Bringing that fixed air of thought and objectivity and science, even, right? Aquarius has a lot to do with science. When Saturn's here, it's about taking these ideas and bringing it into some kind of tangible form that we can use, some kind of structure, some kind of system that we can all operate in. So with Saturn here, we may see some real tangible steps taken toward putting some of these lofty ideas that we have as a collective and bringing them into form, something that we can actually, whether hold in our hand or touch or see or experience, right? To make it real, to make it a real phenomenon. Okay. Now, the challenge with Saturn is it is about boundary, and it is, air sign is about communication. It's about connection, right? And it's very mental. It's very fast. With Saturn here, it could slow that down, and this could be a lot. This could talk to things like censorship and having certified norms for how we communicate with one another. Now, this is the more challenging expression of this energy, and it is only a potential. Again, this is 0 degrees, and we make real as a culture and as a collective what it is that we want to experience. But that is the shadow of that, and that is what we have to work with. However, it can also create new solid foundations and structures for us to connect with each other as a collective, as a collective village, if you want to call it that. Now, I mean, I kind of see this too as new ordinances and systems and ways of connecting with each other that ensure safety, right? Because Saturn is about protecting, and Saturn in Aquarius is about protecting the village, protecting the group, protecting group identity, consciousness, and protecting all of us and how we interact with one another. So I do see some of these things coming into form as time goes on with Saturn and Aquarius. With Jupiter here, especially Jupiter will be in Aquarius for a year. So Jupiter in Aquarius is going to bring a lot of hope to this process. It's going to bring a lot of expansion, going to bring a lot of possibility, going to bring a lot of optimism to this, the beginning of this ride of Saturn and Aquarius. So with both of them right there together at the very beginning at 0 degrees Aquarius, potential is limitless for what we have the potential to create during this time. Nothing has taken form yet. It is pure possibility to what we can create as a collective, as individuals within a collective. But Aquarian energy and Saturnian energy is going to remind us always as individuals that our expansion cannot get outside the group. That cannot get outside group consciousness too far. Otherwise, it is the realm of outcasts, right? That's kind of the rub with Saturn and Aquarius. Now, yeah, I mean that's the rub with Jupiter being in Aquarius too, because Jupiter likes limitless expansion, but Jupiter will expand itself to its limits, but will be contained within whatever the group norms as a collective society we decide they are. Okay, so that's sort of going into it a little bit about what we're dealing with Jupiter and Saturn together at 0 degrees Aquarius, as I see it, that shift that we're going through. Okay, now that's what we got going on at the end of the year. That'll be Jupiter and Saturn will be together for most of January and the beginning part of 2021. Um, then what we're going to have toward the latter part of January into February, and will really be in play, will be with us for the next 2 years, really. It'll be with us for all of 2021 and will be with us for the second half of 2022. Is we're going to have a Saturn Uranus square. Okay. Saturn Uranus square. This is big. We're going to know about it. So we're moving out of 2020. Whatever energies we were dealing with in 2020, I'm not going to predict that things are going to be easier, although I do think they will be. They will be a lot less. I think it's going to be a lot less difficult. But I do see one big major rub, one big major challenge, and that is the Saturn Uranus square. And there may be at times that it can get a little testy and difficult, but I think for the most part, this energy is not going to be nearly as intense. We're not dealing with Pluto making a challenging aspect to planets like we were this year with Saturn and Jupiter. And I think in a lot of ways, that's just going to turn the volume down on the extremes of intensity, right? Pluto was feeding that in 2020. So in 2021, Saturn and Uranus. Now, Saturn, as I said, is going to be in Aquarius. It's going to be defining group parameters, right? Defining, making definition, making concrete, making real the container that we are to exist in as a collective. We're going to be building that, and that's going to be coming into crystallization and form. However, Uranus, the sign of independence, the sign of breaking through barriers, breaking out of constriction, liberation, right? Individual liberation, is going to be in the sign of Taurus, which it has been for a few years now. Is still in Taurus, and in late January into February, Saturn is going to be meeting that in the square. Now, Uranus in Taurus. Taurus is a very, you could say, kind of a conservative energy. It's a very slow moving, fact oriented sort of, yeah, but what about the foundations kind of energy. It's very slow to act. When it does, it can, it's like a bull. It can, it can gain a lot of momentum and be a very, very powerful force. But it typically doesn't act on a whim, right? And it's typically concerned with things like, resources and having enough, right? Taurus is very, takes a liking to sensual pleasures and, food, drink, sex, just very day-to-day, and, the little things, the small pleasures of being human. Taurus, that's Taurus. But Taurus is also concerned with things like security and having enough for itself. And so with Uranus there, Uranus has been shaking that up. Uranus has been shaking that fruit tree. And it's been really shuffling how we, live our domestic situation. Now, this is going to be different for everybody in their individual personal charts, but, Taurus can be a very domestic kind of energy. And with Uranus there, it has really shooken that up and said, okay, what are the parts of this situation that are too limiting and too boring, right? And it's coming there and it's shaking it up. It's added electricity, it's added suddenness, it's added change. It's been shocking at times. Uranus is very involved with the phenomenon of lightning and electricity. So there has been a little bit of that buzz, and it can be upsetting at times. It can be, downright shocking at times. But it is providing the energy needed to shake things up enough so that we put down those systems and those habits, those daily habits and grind that we've gotten into that have kept us trapped, no matter how comfortable it is, right? So Uranus is updating that. That's what Uranus does. It innovates, it updates. So with the square to Saturn in Aquarius, what does that mean? Okay, I see this as, um, well, first of all, whenever you have squares, there's always a potential for something greater to come out of that, right? Through tension, through necessity, it creates a dynamic that, um, it creates a dynamic of consequence, of things changing for the better out of necessity. And it usually involves some kind of tangible physical consequence. Whenever I do charts for people, that are trying to start a business or something like that, you want squares. Squares create tangible physical material outcome, right? So there is that potential there with this aspect to create something far greater than what you had before. However, it's not without tension. And so, what is the tension? The tension is going to be in us sort of updating and redefining and trying to create more liberation and freedom for ourselves within our own personal situations and our own individual personal lives, be that in resources, how we create resources, whether it's working from home and starting a business, whatever that is. Uranus is coming in there and updating that. It's been doing that, right? Saturn is going to come along in a square and say, yeah, but what about the collective group? Yeah, we have our individual things that we want to do and that we want to create. We have a lot of liberating energy coming into that space. But what about collective group, and how does that fit into, making sure that we're all accounted for here, and that nobody's, that it's sensitive to the larger collective and what we've decided and considered to be the new normal, right? The new standard. Okay, how does it fit into that? And so this could manifest in a number of different ways. This could play out in all parts of life at any given time. We could find ourselves in one camp or another, depending on the situation, depending on the area of life. But yeah, that's the energy we're going to be dealing with for a couple of years. It's going to be there, and it's going to be creating a rub for us to really get clear on how we can experience more freedom and liberation in our domestic and material oriented situation, whether it's creating for ourselves, creating resources. How can we liberate ourselves more while at the same time being conscious of what is being built? With Saturn, it's about building. Saturn is building a new collective structure. And new systems are going to be put in place to account for the changes that are happening. So there is going to be rub for the next couple of years, is an opportunity as well, with this tension to create for ourselves outcomes that are far beyond anything that we would have had before. But it does not come without tension, and it's only an opportunity. It's not a guarantee. So it's exciting. It's certainly exciting, and the advice is to see it as opportunity. Because there's going to be a temptation to want to see this as infringing on your comfort zone, and it certainly will. This is, whereas 2020 may have been shocking in a lot of ways and just kind of, a lot of blindsided energy and very intense energy. I think 2021, 2022 with this aspect, I think it's more about redefining boundaries, testing boundaries, redefining our comfort zone, and how we are going to innovate and update ourselves as individuals and the systems that we live within as individuals, how we can update our routines in order to accommodate this larger structure that's being built around us. All right. And that larger structure and us as individuals, there's a communication going on. So all of us as individuals are going to be in communication with this larger structure that's being built around us. It's a communication. And again, especially at the early stages of Jupiter and Saturn moving into Aquarius, it's infinite possibility. This is the time to dream. This is the time to have hope, to really imagine and envision that world that we want, because we're going to have about 5 or 6 weeks here from solstice till the end of January, where Saturn is not yet going to have aspected Uranus. So we're going to have a little bit of time to be in a space of envisioning what's possible, envisioning the future that for ourselves that we want. All right. So that's my advice for right now. Use this time if you have a little downtime for the holidays or heading into next year. If you have a little time to maybe dream a little bit or envision a little bit as to what this world could look like and how you or I, how we could participate in that, and how we could not only help build that, collective vision and give to that collective vision, but also how can we create better, more liberation for ourselves? How can we have both, right? How can we have both? That is the that's the square that we're going to be dealing with for the next couple of years, and really working with working through the tension to better understand how we can have both of these energies, how both of these things can be true, and how we can create a life and a world for ourselves that accommodates both of these things. That's going to be the rub. So that's what we have. Okay, well, thank you for tuning into the video. I haven't been around for a while. I've been busy, but I do see myself making more videos in the next couple of weeks here, so hope you tune in for that. But for now, have fun envisioning what the new world is going to look like for you and your place in it. Okay, until next time, bye.